Hello, we're back, department. I'd like to file a claim. Oh, what a beautiful time to be alive because World Cup qualifiers are back. Listen, I like club football, but international football is clear because once again we get to talk about the countries that don't get as much attention, and I get to learn a lot through reading a bunch of articles and Wikipedia pages. Now before we go into previews for the South American qualifiers mainly, let's just have a quick overview of information regarding the next World Cup qualifying cycle. Quickly before we start, just wanted to say go check out the second channel. There will be a link in the description below. Basically what I'll be doing is just talking about really anything. So far I've talked about life advice, YouTube, so if you want to go check out those videos, they're on the channel right now. And if you have any questions for me for the second channel, definitely leave them down in the comments or the Google Docs in the video descriptions. I know I haven't uploaded in the last month, but that's mainly just because I've been busy with this channel, but I promise I will get more active on this one. So please go and check out the second channel, link in the description. Firstly, as opposed to World Cups in the past where only 32 could qualify, now it's up to 48. CONMEBOL qualifiers are the earliest to start, of course, with the first games actually playing tonight. That is as of the upload date of this video. For 2022, only a minimum of 4 teams could automatically qualify for the big dance, while 1 went to the Intercontinental Playoffs. However, this time there will be 6 that can automatically qualify, with another going to the Intercontinental Playoffs. This is a pretty significant change considering the fact that more than half of South America can now qualify for the World Cup, which only means it'll be an even more impressive feat when Venezuela once again don't qualify. My personal favorite, the Asian qualifiers, start their first round next month. 95% of you people don't care about these matches, but I'll make sure you're heavily invested by next month. Last AFC qualifier saw 4 countries automatically qualify, while 2 teams advanced to a playoff round. Winner of said playoff would then go on to the Intercontinental Playoffs to have a chance at qualifying. For 2026 though, the number of automatic qualification slots has doubled. 8 countries are now able to punch a ticket to the international spectacle, while 1 more can go through the Intercontinental Playoffs. Into my birth month of November, we have African qualifiers. In the past, only 5 African nations have been able to qualify for the World Cup. That number is now up to 9 with an extra slot in the Intercontinental Playoffs. I'm going to be saying that quite a lot. The first qualifiers to begin in 2024 is CONCACAF in March. Due to all the top North American sides being hosts, these qualifiers will be filled with wildcard nations. Along with the US, Mexico, and Canada, 3 other nations will qualify automatically, while 2 have the opportunity to play in through. Then in September of 2024, Oceania kicks off their qualifiers. And thanks to the increase from 32 teams to 48, OFC now has a guaranteed spot. That is on top of the ever so famous intercontinental slot they've held for years. March 2025 will finally give us European qualifiers. 13 teams qualify for 2022, but in 2026, 16 teams will be able to qualify, which will be even funnier when Italy inevitably fail again. Finally, a few months before the tournament in 2026, we have the Intercontinental Playoffs, which will be a 6-team playoff tournament to determine the last 2 spots. There will be 2 CONCACAF nations and 1 country from the rest of the confederations except UEFA. Now back to our main topic for today. CONMEBOL. There are 2 sides to South American qualifiers. On one hand, you got infinite amounts of flair for players eager to put on a show for their people. This is where stars come to cement themselves as gods in their country because here, football is a religion. On the other hand is what I can only describe as the WWF Attitude Era. Actually, scratch that. It's whatever the f is listed here. Every inch of the pitch must be fought for with ferocity only awakened by playing in these types of matches. This is the epitome of grit and grind as all the players want nothing more than to play on the world stage. Neil Warnock would fit in beautifully here because 110%.
You've got to f***ing die to get 3 points!
But don't let that make you forget this continent has some of the best fans in the world. The atmospheres here would kill a Victorian child within 1 zeptosecond. So with that out of the way, let's meet our fighters, and we'll start with Venezuela. Venezuela has never qualified for the World Cup in 12 attempts. In fact, they're the only CONMEBOL member to have never qualified for a single World Cup.
Is it okay that I feel like I don't want to live anymore? Yes, Bobby, that's normal.
The closest they've ever gotten to qualifying is when they finished 6th in 2014. However, in the last campaign, they finished dead last with just 10 points. This year, the national team has brought in new head coach Fernando Batista, who wants to play an aggressive style of football. La Vinotinto has some pretty interesting pieces. Solomon Rondon is the all-time leading scorer for the national team and scored 7 in 10 games last year. Striker Joseph Martinez has been lighting it up for Inter Miami as of recent. And keep an eye on midfielder Yangel Herrera. So far, to begin this season, he started really well for Girona. Next, there's the sea-level merchants themselves. Bolivia. When they're playing in the exosphere, they're like prime Barcelona, but anywhere else and you'd think Montserrat was playing on that pitch. Unlike Venezuela, obviously, Bolivia has actually played in a World Cup. Bolivia actually was invited to the first ever World Cup in 1930 and then qualified for 1950 and 1994. As you can see, it's definitely been a while for football's Denver Broncos. And what's definitely not helping Bolivian football right now is the fact that clubs are failing to pay their players for months, leading them to fix matches to make income. Fortunately, La Verde still have striker Marcelo Moreno, a man who practically adds another 1,000 feet of altitude the way he carries this team. In fact, he finished with 10 goals in the 2022 World Cup qualifiers, the most of any other South American player. Then we have Paraguay, who over a decade ago had some pretty good success. Los Guaraníes have qualified for 7 World Cups, with their best finish coming in 2010 when they reached the quarterfinals. Since then, though, the World Cup has not seen Paraguay. However, as of recent, the country has discovered newfound hope in star player Miguel Almiron and some uber promising talents. 19-year-old attacking midfielder Julio Enciso is currently injured, but he'll definitely make an impact once he comes back. 24-year-old striker Roberto Morales actually scored on his debut against Ecuador in the last cycle, and ideally in the next few windows we could see Enzo Gonzalez, who just made a move to Wolves from Libertad at just 18 years old. Just under a decade ago, Chile used to be one of the best nations in CONMEBOL. Round of 16 appearances in 2010 and 2014 during the start of their golden generation, and then of course they had the Copa America wins in both 2015 and 2016. Although I will say in the 2014 World Cup, Chile should have been in the quarterfinals. Brazilians, don't lie to me, you know it's true. However, Chile's best finish in the World Cup actually goes all the way back to 1962 when they finished 3rd as hosts. But all those glory days are in the past. The core which made this team so great is light years past its prime. And the next generation... yeah. But someone who could be pivotal for this team is Ben Brereton Diaz, a man who was born in Stoke-on-Trent, England. Back in 2021, a bunch of fans created a campaign to get Brereton Diaz a call-up to the national team after they found out he was half Chilean on Football Manager. And since his debut, the Chilean has scored 7 goals in 21 appearances and has become kind of a cult hero for the country. The tale of Colombia in World Cup 2022 qualifiers is one that fans will definitely want to forget. Los Cafeteros started pretty well, were 4th in qualifiers, and were pretty much on track to make a trip to Qatar. But then, this team went 7 straight matches without scoring a single goal.
Hurry it up, will ya? We're hungry over here, look at us! My kids, everything!
Colombia strikers were drier than Icarus's personality in Eternals, and much like my joy of seeing Icarus die on the big screen, I'm sure Colombians were very happy to finally see the end of this qualification campaign. But it was genuinely impressive to see a team generate so many shots and not score a single one of them. So in the end, after a promising start, the Colombians finished 6th and failed to qualify. However, Colombia is back. And better. Since the arrival of head coach Nestor Lorenzo, the team has gone unbeaten with 6 wins and 2 draws. One of those wins includes a 2-0 victory against Germany, a historic result for Los Cafeteros. In total, Colombia has qualified for 6 World Cups. You would think they have qualified for more, but you have to remember, this is South America. It's very competitive. And I'm pretty sure in 2002 they were ranked 9th in the world and didn't qualify for the tournament. 2014 though saw their best result when they reached the quarters, and had the ref not been Brazil's 12th man, it would have probably been the semis. With young players like Luis Diaz, Luis Sinisterra, and John Duran mixed into an experienced core of James Rodriguez, Juan Cuadrado, Davison Sanchez, and Yerry Mina, Colombia have a good chance of redeeming themselves for the terrorism they committed last year. Peru were on the verge of qualifying for World Cup 2022. And then they met their biggest nightmare. While ChatGPT figures out the biggest club in Peru, the national team prepares for qualification under new manager Juan Reynoso. Former manager Ricardo Gareca had taken Peru to incredible heights, so it'll be interesting to see how the team fares under new management. The farthest Peru has gone in the World Cup was the quarters back in 1970, while their most recent appearance was in 2018. The only concern I have for Peru is the fact that their core is only getting older, and they actually start this window without their main striker, Gianluca Lapadula. Before 2002, Ecuador had never qualified for a World Cup, but since then they've made it to the World Football Gala 4 times over the last 6 editions. Their best performance saw them reach the round of 16 in 2006. Latri came so close to mirroring that last year, but lost to Senegal. Nonetheless, Ecuadorians go into the 2026 World Cup qualifiers with a new manager in Felix Sanchez. Yes, that Felix Sanchez. 21-year-old midfielder Moises Caicedo should play a big role in this campaign, along with Pervis Estupiñán, who has been thriving at Brighton so far, and striker Enner Valencia. He may be 33 years old, but he has shown no signs of stopping. 3 goals in World Cup 2022, and 2 more in 2 games this year. However, in this window, Ecuador will be missing the contributions of fullback Pierre Hincapié. By the way, you might be wondering, why does Ecuador have negative points? Well, that's due to them falsifying birth documents for Byron Castillo during the last cycle. Already not a great start, and then you remember, they played the world champions on match day 1. Uruguay had a pretty disappointing World Cup campaign last year. As a result, they sacked their manager and brought in Marcelo Bielsa. Bielsa is creating a new era, it appears, as he's opted for a younger squad. No Cavani, no Suarez, and there's only one player that's 30 years old. The head coach is well known for his high-intensity football, so with a bunch of energetic youngsters, this could be a match made in heaven. I'm especially looking forward to him working with the likes of Darwin Núñez, Federico Valverde, and new boy Manuel Ugarte. Perhaps we could even see Facundo Pellistri make his breakout. Uruguay has won the World Cup twice, back in 1930 and 1950. You could also count the Olympics prior, which is why they have 4 stars, but they also have 3 4th place finishes from 1954, 1970, and most infamously 2010. To many, Brazil were favorites going into World Cup 2022. Please don't show my But in the end, like they always do, Seleção lost to a European team in the knockouts. The Brazilians have actually not beaten a European side in the knockouts since they won the tournament in 2002. And speaking of, I know they got 5 stars, but at some point we gotta talk about that 20-year World Cup title drought. We also need to talk about Neymar. There have been so many Joker moments for this guy that these Facebook posts that I found 2 years ago have become canon in his own house. 2014, he had the backbreaking incident. 2018, he was clowned on for his dive, and also he went invisible against Belgium. 2021, Copa America, where he was basically a punching bag in the final, and of course you had 2022, where he didn't even get to take a penalty against Croatia. This man is the Eren Yeager of international football, and here I am wondering when his transformation will happen. Without the genocidal maniac part. But he's going to be 34 by 2026, and he doesn't really have the player profile that fits a player that ages like a fine wine. So 2022 might have honestly been his last chance. But in the meantime, he can still do a lot of damage in qualifiers. There's no doubting the talent Brazil holds in their squad. It should be once again an easy route to the World Cup for them. That all said though, their manager is currently a caretaker, as they weren't able to get Carlo Ancelotti. But one more thing, and massive credit to the Federation for this. Recently, Antony was removed from the squad because it turns out he's a horrible piece of shit. Finally, we have the world champions, Argentina. Messi, after so many years of disappointment with the national team, finally had his moment, and it was oh so beautiful. Sure, you can talk about all the controversies, you know, in hindsight. Let's be fair here, okay? I'm a Messi fan. I rooted for Argentina in that final. Some of those calls were a bit questionable, I can't lie. But thanks to their win in 2022, Argentina now has 3 World Cup titles, the others coming in 1970 and 1986. Now, the reason why Argentina have become less of a joke in the international football sphere is the fact that Scaloni has made them turn into a team with no remorse. On that pitch, every single game, and it's why Argentina has done so well in qualifiers and the World Cup now, is the fact that there's 11 assholes ready to give you the worst time of your entire life. And Messi is no exception either. This is no little boy from Rosario. This is a man who won't take anyone's shit anymore. That all said, with the coach they have, the attitude they have, all the quality players they also have, this should be a pretty easy run for Argentina. So that's the preview. I'll talk about the actual matches in the review. But if you want to know what matches you should watch, honestly, You couldn't go wrong with any of them. Maybe not Brazil versus Bolivia, because that would probably be like a 5-0 result, because it is not being played in Bolivia. But that's about honestly it. Like, all of these games should be really fun to watch. Of course, stay tuned for when we do the review of this, probably next week, because there's only 2 match days this time. Of course, we'll also have the Euro qualifier review at some point next week or the week after, not sure yet. But until then, a massive shout out to all our patrons, including Janos Barash, Stin, Miliway009, Adnazir Makalankom, Aldipu, Alex Rod, Ulta, Araisan, Carlos Anaya, Daniel Ortiz, Francisco Hernandez, Hysteria, Ilea, Josh Budd, Marco Fujimoto, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Slider Kid, Sniffrix, Taco Okafan, Tana, Permilia, Celine Khan, Tamakis, Victor, Chris Damasceno, Chris Visconti, Q Snatty Champs 2022, Lewis, Joe Paricio, Lucian Von Croix, Niche, Patrick Barley, Rowan Cookie, Sylvia Citrus, subscribe to Tende Tim, Unbroken Persona, and Valencia 14. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you like, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 20,000, I guess. And of course, you can follow my semi-active Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.